Hey, this is Kevin from Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. If you want more information like you're about ready to see, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to support this independent podcast.
Amari Cooper finished wide receiver 9 last year, 78 receptions, 132 targets, 1,160 yards, 9 touchdowns, and averages 7.8 targets per game. Thoughts on Amari Cooper?
I really like Amari Cooper as my wide receiver too. I think he fits right in there. I think we saw, a wide receiver 9 finish. It'll be interesting to see if he gets all those touchdowns. But he did it with lesser quarterbacks, right? Like they did this with Jacoby Brissett, good route runner, good hands, right? Not great hands, good hands. This could pivot, right? Amari Cooper's a great number 2, and another guy who does go undervalued, right? Amari Cooper gets forgotten, and you forget that, he had seven catches a game consistently and was flirting with 80 plus yards and was able to fall into the end zone and worked for both best ball and season long formats, right? Like this all didn't come out of 2 weeks. Like he did have a body of work throughout the season. And again, it's because they run the ball to set up the pass. And when your wide receiver, specifically your top wide receiver, doesn't have to worry about double coverage on every play because you are just running the ball down your throat and you have to find a way to stop that, it leads towards plays like this.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me is once Watson came back and you look at the game stats for Amari Cooper, he was targeted double-digit times 2, 4, 6 times before Watson came back and only once after Watson came back. And now I will say, what is important about that is that the writing was already on the wall for Cleveland at that point. It was pretty clear that they weren't going to be in the postseason conversation. They had a rough stretch there in October where they, lost basically every game. And that kind of wrote their season for them. But what was interesting is while the targets were down, the efficiency was way up, with the exception of the first 2 weeks against Houston and Cincinnati, which were, Watson's first 2 games with Amari Cooper. He went 4 catches on 6 targets for 58 yards, 6 catches on 10 targets for 72 yards, 3 catches on 4 targets and 2 touchdowns, and then 2 catches on 3 targets for 51 yards. So I will say that there should be a level of tempered excitement with Amari Cooper, but that's only going to build. And the great thing about it is the efficiency was there, right? So now that Watson knows where he's going to be, that efficiency number, if that can keep up, then I think, you can stat out and say, okay, well, the catches to targets number is going to be a lot closer, even though I think that targets number might come down a little bit. I still think the catches number stays at the same, hovers around the same area. So that is nice. Efficiency is nice. You hope that he can break off a couple for some big gains and get you some yards points, and fall into the end zone. 9 times feels like a lot, but it doesn't seem unreasonable.
I think you'll see these guys get on the same page. I think you'll see Amari Cooper kind of take off and have another really good fantasy finish. And where Kevin's talking about having him as your wide receiver 2 on your team, absolutely love that, because that's a guy that can go out and can get you a weekly top 5 finish any given week out there. And if you've got him as your wide receiver 2, just kind of being your and almost in a set it forget it kind of wide receiver 2, like that's a really nice spot to be able to be in. Where he's coming off the board, wide receiver 16th overall, kind of 39th. So you're talking beginning of the very beginning of the 4th round. You can easily put him on as your wide receiver 2 there, especially if you're drafting kind of in that tail end of the draft to start off with. If you're down there and pick 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that, you can catch him kind of right there on that 4th round turnaround there. And that is an absolutely fantastic spot to be able to put him on your roster.